Hi all, I wanted to talk to you today about having grown up children that live at home, but they run up debt. And what do you do about it? How do you cope with it? And does it worry you that the bailiffs will come to the door? And this has hit home to me lately because we've got two grown up boys. One can manage money very well, the other one can't manage money at all. And I think that's quite common for a lot of young people. When money hits his hands, it's spent like that. And I know as a youngster, I was quite like it as well. But I did always pay my rent and I always had my priorities in line. I knew I was too frightened not to pay a bill on time. That was my problem. I didn't just say, oh, sod it, it won't matter, and put two fingers up to the world. And eventually, as we all know, and I've done it on a credit card once before, when I was about, I think I was given a credit card, I must have been about 18, 19. And I remember running up, and at that time it was nearly £1,000, a lot of money to run up debt for. And I pay the minimum amount and then find that actually it just grew and grew and grew really. And sort of after a year, I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm getting nowhere fast. And I know that happens to loads of young people. And I understand it's very tempting with credit cards and people pushing you into having a hire purchase cart. Oh, I had one of those once before. And I remember I still paid my rent at home, but I remember I couldn't afford the repayments because when something went wrong on the car, I didn't have that extra money because I had to pay out for the monthly sum of the car. And it's almost like having been through all that myself and getting to grips by about the age of 25, I'd really got to grips with things, and I actually had a mortgage anyway. And I knew that you have to get your priorities right, otherwise you don't sleep at night and the debts just build. And also, I think there were a little bit more tighter controls there, or maybe there weren't the offers of debts like for instance the 118 or the ones where if you've got poor credit, for instance, which I was really lucky and I haven't got poor credit at all. I've got really good credit, and that's because I always paid, even though I might have got into debt at some point in my head. I always paid the minimum and I always paid on time, so that gave me great credit for the future. And I know that one of the things now is you can't get good credit, so I understand it, is if you haven't had a credit card or you haven't paid anything like on a regular basis. Now that in itself gets young people into trouble and also tempts them into buying things that they can't actually afford in the first place. And jobs aren't the same as they used to be. When you had a job, you used to have it for life, or you could have had it for life. Now jobs, people lurch from week to week. I've seen it in my own son. And you never know. A lot of people are on 0% contracts. Some people are working through an agency. And to get permanent positions where you're getting a proper salary, and it's really difficult. And also if you go from a weekly sum to a monthly sum, then you find you're behind. And thankfully for our eldest child, he's had us to back him up. But for many youngsters, they don't. And he is learning the hard way because we've had to say no. Our biggest mistake was saying, yeah, we'll lend you a bit when he was younger, and then actually having to write it off because I've realised when you lend money to your children, you might as well just say, have it. Either we've got it to give you or I'm not giving it at all, because I'm not going to give it just to lend anymore. And I think that's a lesson I've learned. I mean, our eldest is now 26. Would love to move out. Would love to move out and start on his own and everything. And he's really just started in a new job. He's got to wait a month for that salary. And this is all really typical. I'm using him as an example, really. I'm not having a go at my oldest son. I understand why he is the way he is and a lot of the problems that he's had. However, he lacks control with money. Everybody makes it too easy to get hold of money, or have done in the past. And I do feel that maybe, and my friend suggested this, and I totally agree with her, that they shouldn't offer any credit, bar a mortgage or bar going to university, until you're 25. Because when you're 25, really the things that tempt you, like buying a car, moving out of home, those are the things that you've probably done, and you've done them using credit. Now, if you were a youngster, say at 17, and you passed your driving test and you wanted to buy a car and you couldn't get credit, or you couldn't get a hire purchase on a car of any sort, that way you would have to, it would make you save up. Now, I'm only saying you might need to raise a couple of thousand for a second-hand runaround. There'd be none of this getting, I don't know, supercars or sort of ones at 7,000 or 8,000 that you're paying back on, because there wouldn't be the credit offered. So by the time you get to 25 and you've matured a bit, you're able, not only you understand saving, but you also understand the value of money a bit. And I think that would be a really good thing. I know that that's probably never going to happen. And the other thing is, if you have a child, say, for instance, who have got some learning difficulties, but not enough that you would be, say, they're still able enough to go and open a bank account, say, but they have some learning issues, or they don't really understand what that means when they're first 18, because there are old 18s, aren't there, and there are young 18s, and some children of, I say children, some people of 18 are really more like 14. Certainly some, of course, are much the other way. I just feel that it's caused an enormous problem in our house. Of course, I'm frightened that debts that have built up, that if a bailiff comes because there are debts outstanding still, what happens? Because they can come to the house, and I know unless they've got a court order from the High Court, we don't have to let them in. However, how do you prove, if you've got two children living there, whose bits are whose? Do you know what I mean? So that they don't seize things. And if you've got to have receipts for everything, I mean, do people have receipts for everything in their house? I have a lot of receipts, but I don't have receipts for, I don't remember having the receipt for the TV, which was, I don't know, a couple of £100. I mean, there's not much in our house, to be honest, that's worth more than a few £100. But if they really wanted to, I suppose they could help themselves in the house. Has anybody else had this problem or issue? And what happened? I just feel that it doesn't matter how you bring your youngster up. I mean, we've had two children brought up the same way. One is very good with money, one is appalling with money. He's the most adorable young man. I'm not angry about, I'm angry, of course, that he's in debt. And I'm angry about the possible consequences on my nerves for bailiffs or anything else. But I'm not actually angry at him, which maybe I should be. I don't know. But I understand, in a way, why he is where he is, if you get what I mean. Life has offered him opportunities which at the time when he was working he could afford, but because the jobs weren't reliable enough, things fell through. And so this must happen so much. I mean, there's a catalogue out there called Very, and I'm sure all over the world there are catalogues that offer loans, or youngsters can get TVs and things like that to pay off weekly. And this is fine if you've got a job that's permanent, but when you're young, the permanency of jobs aren't there anymore. And I really think that a lot of the people that offer credit have got a high responsibility to these young people as well. I really think they have. And when a youngster cannot pay back their debts and ends up going to court and ends up paying £50 a month or whatever it is, and they have to sort of cut off some of the interest charges, it's their own bloody faults as well. Everybody, it's the fault of the youngster, and they have to take responsibility for the mess they've got themselves in. It's also the fault of the lender, because if you are charging high interest rates and you're offering to people who've got fairly bad credit, then you know they're what am I trying to say? There's a chance that they won't be able to pay back, because that's why they've got poor credit in the first place. So there is the responsibility, as I say, of the youngster and of the person lending the money. But also, I wish that people would understand the impact on the parents who have a lot of youngsters, and they're older now. These are people in their mid-20s, even 30s, living at home because they can't afford places out. They can't afford mortgages. The way the world's changing, it's making it more difficult. They can't necessarily even afford rents. It's very, very hard. And the internet is another reason that it's made it harder for people. Sorry, not harder for people, but easier for people to borrow money. It all seems to me that as communities, we need to teach youngsters a lot more and a lot earlier about getting into debt, and even to be pointing out the companies that offer these high interest rates, and what it also and the impact it has on families, brothers, sisters, and even friends, because friends loan each other money, and friendships fall out when that doesn't work either. This has really affected me a lot, especially lately, and it's made me very sad. And I'm sure that for my son, things will work out okay. He's already sorting himself out, and I hope that in time he will be able to get on an even keel once he's had a few months into this job, and things will be better again. But he's got his father and I backing him, and he's 26. There aren't many kids out there that have got that. And I understand where he is and why he is the way he is and where he is, if you get what I mean. But for other parents out there, or for anybody else that's been in this situation and understands where I'm coming from, I'm just wondering what's happened, if anyone can shed light on what's happened to them, or whether they'd like to share their stories, because I think there's a message to be had in this. And to all your youngsters out there that are thinking of borrowing money or getting a credit card, if you don't pay it off in full, you are wasting money. You might as well be wrapping your tenors up in your hands and chucking them in the bin. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about that today because it's been weighing heavily on my mind, and it's something I wanted to just get off my chest, and my YouTube channel seemed to be the place for it. Take care. Please share, please like, and please subscribe. Bye. Love you all.